Hey guys, my name is Tiffany. Thank you for joining me. You can't see me, but I'm here. I decided to do like a little intro to GitHub. How do I post a new project to GitHub? Because I realized a lot of people, they're afraid to use the command line and then, or the terminal, and then they're also afraid to use Git. As a new developer, and you definitely shouldn't be afraid to use it. These are tools that are gonna make your life easier once you master them. I'm going to be on my profile, and then I'm going to go to repositories. And remember, this is just to get a new this is just to get a new repository on your GitHub page. So when you click on it, you are able to see the code and everything. So this is the process that we're doing. Okay. So I'm going to go back to here. Go to repositories. I'm going to click new. This part is fine to do on your interface. It's fine. I'm just going to call this testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you could put a description here. Testing GitHub repo. It's almost a good idea to always do that, as well as to initialize what a README. What this README does is the README is basically going to allow you the ability, others the ability to read what's going on before they decide to want to either make a fork your website or clone it or of the sort. So the README is important. That's where you put the technologies that you're using. That's what you use to give instructions to the user if there's additional instructions. So I'm going to create a repository, and now I have a repo. Well, not really. So what I have now is basically this README file that says testing 1, 2, 3. That's all it is. And in here it has my description that I had. Okay. So what we're going to do, instead of doing these, we're going to go through the command line and do this. So what I am going to do is I'm going to clone this. So I'm going to copy this URL so I can put it here. So the command that we're going to use is git clone and then paste the link. And this is going to clone what we have so far inside of our repo that we're in. And in this case, it's testing 1, 2, 3. So we're going to enter. Okay, cool. Okay, now clear this. Clearing just takes you back to the top. Now, if I were to ls allows you to list the items that are in this particular folder. And right now we have a folder inside of here called testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, which is the exact name of our repository. Now, if I wanted to, I could have just created a folder on my desktop. Well, I didn't have to really create a folder on my desktop, and I always make that mistake of making a folder and then cloning it, and then here I have 2 folders in here, but I don't really need it. That's a common mistake, and I still will sometimes make that mistake, as you could tell. So I'm going to just go into this testing 1, 2, 3. So change directory on a Mac, it's CD. And then if I ls again, it should give me that README file that I was looking for earlier. So here is this README file. And if I wanted to open this README file, I can do yeah, I'll just go the old-fashioned way, add project folder, and actually, let's just use this one instead. Okay, so from our desktop, if we just go into this testing 1, 2, there should be a folder called testing 1, 2, 3. We should be able to go into that. And then if we ls, it's going to show what's in this folder, and it's just that README file that's here. Okay, so now I've lost my atom. Here it is. So I want to use this one. I'm going to open this one. And you see when you open it inside of your text editor, it has like this little link here. This is your GitHub. This means it's connected to GitHub. That's what that means. And of course, it has your .git files. You can git ignore, all those things. And here's your README file, right? So it has your description in it for right now. This is basically for future directions on how to use your app. Also, this is, like I mentioned earlier, this is where you put the technologies used in app. And I'm just writing this down, so hopefully it'll help you. And then also technologies used in app, and then any general directions. Sometimes if it's something where you can participate in, like open source project, they'll have like directions on how to contribute to open source. So I mean, that's another thing that you can utilize this for. So as you can see, it also has changes highlighted off to the side. Depending on which text editor you're using, it's going to depend on what color it is. But these just means that these were added to here, to this file. I'm also going to add a new file, and it's just going to be an HTML file. I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And as you can see, I'm inside of this directory, desktop 123, and then here is the app that I'm in. So I'm just going to say test.html and everything test. Okay, so now we have a new file, and then we also have some changes. So if I go back to my command line and I do a git status, I always recommend doing a git status whenever you're working with Git, especially if you get a little lost. No pun intended. It'll kind of tell you what to do in most cases and point you in the right direction. So basically what this is telling me is that I have some changes here that I've modified. I've got a new file that I've added, but it's not in Git right now, so it's untracked. So it can't really tell me anything about it because I don't have it inside of my repo or my repository. And then it says use git add and or git commit -a. And so it's basically telling you what you can do, right? And it also says at the top here, use git add and then the file name and to update what will be committed. Okay, so I'm going to do git add. Myself personally, I do the period. I do git add period, and that adds all the files. Usually if I'm at work and there is only one file, or there's only one file that I want to be committed to this particular branch, that I work in branches at work. So if it's only one particular folder I want to add to this, or one file I want to add to it, then I'll just add that particular file. So I would do something like this. So I would copy it, and then I'm just going to paste it, right? And then you could do the same thing with this, and then paste this as well. So it's basically saying you want to add test HTML and readme.html. And then if I enter, I can do another git status. Okay, now instead of being in red like it was up here, it's green, which means, hey, we're almost there, right? So these are changes that need to be committed. So if I go back over here and refresh, it's still not going to show up here inside of my repo because they're not committed and they're definitely not pushed. So if I do a git commit -m, always do -m because that's the message that you're going to put on GitHub. These messages are really important when you're working in a group, and they're also important when you have your own project because they're kind of like little reminders of what you did and to these files that you're in. So it's very important. I tell everybody, like, make your messages count because one day you're going to go back and read them. Sometimes mine can get a little crazy, especially while I'm working. I like to make sure that I know what these files are, because a lot of times I'm doing like a feature that's inside of these files that I'm using or something like that, or updates. And I want to make sure that I'm keeping track of what I'm updating. The whole point of GitHub is so that you can track your changes and everything. And I feel like if you're not tracking what you're actually doing, like in an actual message, if it doesn't make any sense, then it's kind of, you know, ridiculous, really. Because then, I mean, you can go back and look at the code or whatever, but it makes more sense to go ahead and be like, okay, this is what I actually did in a message rather than reading through all the files. So I added a test HTML file and updated README with how to use it. Kind of vague, but if I go back and look at this, I'll know what I mean. Okay, now it tells me my message, and it also signs it like an ID number, and it tells me that it's on master. Master is going to be the branch that you're on when you first create a new project, when you first create a new repo in GitHub. This master is going to be what you're on. If you want to have another branch, which I definitely recommend doing and we'll go over, then you'll want to create a new branch. And then this will not say branch master, it'll say branch whatever name that you call it here. But that's for a later video. For right now, we just want to get our project up, and to do that, we can use master. And this is under the assumption that you're working on this project on your own and you haven't formulated inside of a group yet. You just want your code on GitHub. Okay, so it told me that I've got 2 files changed, and it tells me what has been inserted. I haven't deleted anything from these files. If I did, it would have told me deletions as well. Okay, and then if we want to push this to our page, because still, if I refresh over here, there's still nothing here. It's like, oh man, it's still not there. So if you do a git push origin master is going to be the branch that we're on. In this case, like I mentioned, we're on master, so that's what we're going to push to. And if I enter, it's going to work its magic, which is basically pushing all of our data up there, and it tells you kind of how long it takes and what it's doing in the process, which is cool. So if I refresh, I should see my files, and I do. You see I have my new updates here, which it didn't really look how I thought it was going to look, but something to think about. And then it has my HTML here that I had just made. So that's how you do it. If you're looking to push up your project to GitHub, this is pretty much the directions you need in order to do it. If we want to recount what we did, we basically created a new repo in our or repository in our interface, which is over here. And then we got the URL, we cloned it over here. Let's see, I can't go up. Yes, I can. We cloned it here to our actual machine, and then we went through the process of git status, which I told you was a big one to use if you ever get lost. And then we basically, after that, we added our files, we committed our files, and then we pushed them. And that's pretty much it. Any other changes, you'll do the same thing. You'll add them, and then you could add each individual file if you want. like I did here, or you can do git add a, which you won't have to list them all out. It will just add them all for you. And then commit and push. That's pretty much it. So don't be afraid of the command line, guys. It's your friend, trust me. We're going to be working on branching, creating your own branch, and then pushing up to your branch. So branching is important because when you're working as a team, you'll want to be working on your own branch. So what that means is you have a copy of whatever is in master. So this would be my master. And if I create a branch, then that is mine, right? That's my branch. That's my copy of master. And with that copy of master, I can make my own changes and then push them up to my branch. And then when I get done, say that I'm working on a feature to add a navigation to the website, right? I make my navigation in my branch, and then I do a pull request. The team looks at it, okays it after changes are made, and then it gets pushed to master. When it's in master, it's essentially, that's the branch that you want to put into production. You don't want to put your personal branch into production. You want to put your master branch into production. You want it to be the best updated copy that you can get, right? So right now, if I did a git branch, I think I spoke about this in my last video, and by the way, I'm going to link the last video up in the link description bar if I haven't already. So I'm going to do a git branch, and that's going to tell me what branches I have and what current one I'm under. So I have a branch called master, which everyone has by default whenever you create your GitHub repo. And then it's got an asterisk by it, meaning it's the current one, and it's green. So that's the current one that we're on. I want to create a new branch. In order to do that, I'm going to do git branch and then the branch name. I'm going to call mine test. Now, it doesn't return anything to you, but if you do another git branch, now you have a master and a test. Pretty cool, pretty simple. If I want to be on that test branch, then I'm going to do git check out and then the name of the branch. And it told me that it switched to branch test. If we wanted to check for ourselves, now test is highlighted green and it's got the asterisk by it. Now, another good thing is that when you are inside of your text editor and it's hooked up to your GitHub, it'll tell you, this one's a little small, you may not be able to see it, but at the bottom it says, hey, I'm on my test branch. If I moved back very quickly, tells me I moved to master, and if I go here, it's switched back to master. So that's kind of a good indication that you are on the right branch. Believe it or not, I use that all day, making sure I'm not making updates to the master branch and pushing things up that aren't supposed to be pushed up yet. Although I have made that mistake before, but hey, it happens. So we are in our test branch. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go here and I'm going to refresh. As you can see, nothing has happened. We got one branch still, no changes. I'm going to make a change while I'm in test. See, I'm on my test branch. And remember, I said something about the navigation. So we're going to add to our navigation. And this project that I'm working with is for an old YouTube series I did with HTML and CSS. It's just a basic HTML and CSS website. If you want to check that out, I'll link that in the description bar above, and you can check that out. So I'm just going to add a list item tag, and it's going to just say test in it. That's it. So now I'm going to do a git status. Alright, so now we have some things. It tells me that I have some changes. A file has been modified, and these changes are not committed, which means they're not saved, which means they are not on my branch. They're not saved to my branch. so to speak. So I'm going to save them to my branch because I want to record this change because it's an important change for my project. So I'm going to do git add, copy this, paste it. The next thing is git commit, and I'm kind of running through this because I did this in the last video. This message is just going to say added a link to nav, push, enter, and then I'm going to push this change. Origin, and instead of master, I'm going to do test. Test is the name of my branch, which means that if your branch is called Honky Dory, then you want to say git push origin Honky Dory. So it's pushing my changes to this branch. Now if I go over here, we notice some changes happening. I'm going to refresh this real quick. Now it says I have 2 branches, whereas before it said I only had 1. So if I click on it, it now shows this test branch is my branch and it's an active branch. Okay? And then it also shows me, hey, you just recently pushed to this. Do you want to make a pull request? And that's what it says here. So we'll go over that later. So like I said, the point of a branch is so that you could work on your changes, make your mistakes before you push them up to master. Another thing I didn't mention about branching is naming your branch. So if I wanted to name a branch, name is test here, whatever you want to name it. You could have underscores, you can have dashes if you wanted to, you can do camel case as well, and then if I enter, that's just created a new branch, which I don't really need, but you see here, this is now my branch name. You don't want to have you probably won't want to have a mix of camel case, dashes, and underscores. But if you want to just name your branch name underscore is test, all lowercase, that's probably a better practice. Or if you want to say name is test camel case, then that's another good thing to do. And what I'm talking about is like this. Get branch name is test. So you could do that. Or you could do name, dash is dash test, all lowercase with dashes in between. Or you can just do underscores, name is underscore test. So that's another way to do it if you'd like. I'd say stay consistent with whatever you're going to use with your branch names. You don't want to have them all, some of them camel case, some of them dashes, some of them underscores. It gets to be a little crazy to look at. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a pull request at this point. So we've got our code up onto GitHub so far. We've created a branch. We know how to name our branch. Now we want to make a pull request and have others review it. Alright, so let's get started. I'm already in my terminal here. I'm in the correct folder that I'm in, and I've got my GitHub up, and I've also got my web page up here. If I want to make a pull request on the branch, I just go here to branches. Sometimes it'll show up on that main page in yellow if there's been recent changes, but for mine it didn't show up. But this is another way that you can make a pull request. So you just click over here, new pull request. Okay. And it has right here, this is the commit message that I had. And if I want to, I could add additional things in this here box. I can say, this is normally where you would put a more descriptive description of what it is you accomplished with this branch and pull request. Also, if you have any additional screenshots that you'd like, insert them here. just to kind of give you as much information about what happened as you can possibly can. Remember, this is what's going to be live, right? So when you're making a pull request, you're basically saying this is as best as it's going to be, and I want you to review this so we can make this change live. That's what this is. And if you haven't already, you could assign yourself to this. You could assign others if you're in a group as well. You can request someone to review it, those types of things. Labels, projects, milestones. They've got a lot of things in here to keep you organized. Create pull request. All right, great. So all it has is my commit message here, the number of pull requests that it is. This happens to be number 3. And then it has my description if I had any additional information. Now, you could easily, since there's no conflicts, you could easily just say merge pull request, but there's really no fun in doing that, and it's really not the right way that you would like to practice on doing this. So I'm going to click command line instructions, and it basically gives you the entire instructions on what you need to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and follow the directions. It's going to fetch the origin, which is going to fetch the main part of this branch, which is technically your master. The second thing you want to do is you want to check out the branch that is on this master. And it's going to tell you that you have now switched to this new branch from your origin. The next thing is git merge master. So you're getting the latest changes from master. Everything's already up to date on my end, so I didn't need to make any changes. Sometimes your branch is behind, so you just want to get the latest changes from there. If I go over here, I now see that I am on test down here. Hopefully you can see that. And then also now I have a list item called test. And if I were to go over here and refresh my page, now I have test as a link. It doesn't go anywhere. I didn't tell it to. So it's just a link here. Okay. So I've checked it out. Everything checks out all right. This is something I want to merge into my project or the final piece of project. And I'm going to do that now. Now, if I haven't said so already, I do recommend that you have somebody else on your team look over your pull request. You really shouldn't be reviewing your own pull requests. It doesn't really make any sense for you to do so. You did the work, so you don't want to look over your own work. You need a second pair of eyes to do so. So, with that being said, I want to merge these changes. So I'm going to git checkout master. And now I'm switched to master, and if I wanted to check that, it now shows that master is here, and I'm no longer on test. Now, this is the piece that's important. This is what merges your branch right here. Now, you may see Vim show up here. Honestly, I never make a commit message here because that's what it's telling you to do. I honestly never do that because I already have the message I want up here. That's descriptive enough for me. There might be a reason for this. If it is, I'm not sure. But I normally just colon Q to get out of Vim and to take me back to my text editor. And this tells you the changes that were made in the files that were updated. The very last thing you need to do is just push this into your master branch. And that's working its magic. It's writing things. It's adding things to your master, and it's done. So if I go back here, that message, this git push origin master, basically merged my branch into master. And it's telling me now that it's merged, which is great, which means I'm done. You could delete the branch from here if you'd like, or you could delete it from the terminal. I recommend doing it from the terminal. We'll do that in a second. So this is it. Now if you click on pull request, there's no more. If you go back to your code, it now has your added link to navbar message here. If you click into it, you could see that as well. If you were to refresh, you should still see test because it's now merged into master, and we are on the master branch and everything is up to date. So that is all you do. If you wanted to delete this branch after you're done with it, you don't want it anymore, you don't want to see it when you do get branch, all you have to do is get branch, the name of the branch, dash capital D, and get rid of that. If I were to do get branch again, it is gone. So that's it, guys.